Fit is everything. When talking about the NFL draft, I could have this perfect prospect, I could give you the best strengths, weaknesses, everything across the board, and it won't matter if they're put into a bad situation or not put in the best situation to succeed for their development. I mean, there's obviously guys like blue chip prospects that are going to work virtually anywhere, but some schemes are going to be better than others. There's going to be opportunities that are better than others. And so I think it is best that we take some time and understand, especially with the most important position in all of football, what is the best fit for these quarterbacks. I think a great example of this is when you have the pairing of like a Cliff Kingsbury and a Jayden Daniels. Now, we could play hypotheticals and say, oh, well, Jayden Daniels would have worked regardless of where he went. Say he went to the Broncos, hell, even the Falcons, because apparently they were going with quarterback. But I think little stories of what Cliff Kingsbury did to best put Jayden Daniels in the best position to succeed. There's this time where he, as soon as they got into the building, he sat down with Jayden Daniels and said, hey, give me 5 concepts, 5 plays that you feel so confident running that in an instant I can call it and we're back into rhythm. Because like any quarterback, there's ebbs and flows. There's moments where you're in a slump. You need to be able to feel comfortable to get back your confidence, especially with rookies. And Cliff Kingsbury did a great job with that. And we see what happened with a guy like Jayden Daniels. You may say, Tegan, well, this quarterback class is not that good. What's the point of even talking about it? And I don't disagree that this quarterback class is not that great. I think a great example is 1 and 2, the Titans and Browns, both need a quarterback and they're both willing to trade back. That kind of gives you a sign that there's no blue chip guys. And the blue chip guys are going to work virtually anywhere. Obviously, some situations are better than others, but they're going to mostly have a great chance to work. Then you have the guys that are not blue chips. And I think there's no blue chip prospects for the quarterback position. So that makes the fit even more important. That's not to say none of these guys can't be great, but I think where they land becomes even more important because not everywhere is going to work. And the 5 quarterbacks we're going to talk about, Jaylen Milroe, Will Howard, Jackson Dart, and then the top 2, Shador, Sanders, and Cam Ward. In no specific order, these are just the top 5 guys in my opinion. I'm going to give you my rundown of my thoughts and opinions of these quarterbacks, and then I'll tell you what fit I think would be best for them. Now, it's going to be realistic. Obviously, I can't just pair everyone with like a Sean McVay. I'm going to be in the range of where I think they'll end up going and which of those teams would be the best match for them. But hold on, real quick. This is from Snap to Football. We talk about schematics and football only on this channel. So if you want to give me an opportunity to talk some football with you, whether it's a like, comment, subscribe, anything across the board, that would mean the world to me. But like I said, all we do is talk about football around here, so let's dive into the video. The first guy I have to talk about is Jaylen Milroe. The Raiders are a perfect fit for a guy like Jaylen Milroe. Let me tell you why. When we're talking about Chip Kelly and Pete Carroll, those are 2 coaches that I think would put Jaylen Milroe in the best position to succeed. We all know Milroe is a flawed prospect. I've done an entire film review on him on this channel, diving into all of his weaknesses, and he's flawed as a thrower of the football. He makes the easy things look hard, and he makes the hard things look easy. That's such a weird prospect. Bake in a 4.3 speed damn near, and you get one of the most intriguing prospects that I can remember. So why does Chip Kelly and Pete Carroll work? Well, let's talk about Chip Kelly and look at the recent quarterbacks that he's worked with. It's been a very interesting range. I mean, we get the Marcus Mariotas of the world. At the NFL level, he worked with Sam Bradford. Then you have DTR and Will Howard. But I'm thinking of just DTR, Will Howard. What is he going to be able to do to put those quarterbacks in the best position to succeed that he could do at the NFL level? Anyone that drafts Jaylen Milroe are going to implement the basics of having a mobile quarterback. Zone reads, quarterback power, those types of things. And anyone can implement that. But what Chip Kelly brings is another level of creativity with how he manipulates linebackers. He pulls different guards. There's a bunch of different run fits that he likes to do. We saw it with Ohio State during their entire national championship run. He could get so damn creative with his rushing attack. And that is going to be the baseline that gives Jaylen Milroe the best position to succeed. I think the best comparison is Lamar Jackson. Not just play style, I'm not doing that comparison. I more mean what the Ravens did when they drafted a guy of that talent and they adapted their entire offense around him when he was not as developed as a passer yet. Because if Milroe goes into a situation and he's the one that's having to adapt to the NFL style, pro style offenses, I don't think that's going to work. He's going to need a franchise that is wanting to lean into those skill sets and be able to maximize the strengths while living with some of the weaknesses. Pair that with Pete Carroll, a guy that is known to build a very positive culture and is going to be able to give Jaylen Milroe an opportunity to grow as a player. I think it's a great match, on top of the fact that the Raiders are not looking to succeed right now. There's at least 1 to 2 years where you can let a guy like him develop, and at a pretty cheap price for a talent of Jaylen Milroe's caliber, I just love this pairing overall. And not to mention, you have Brock freaking Bowers. How can you not love that for any rookie quarterback? But let's talk about relatively the consensus quarterback one in Cam Ward, the guy that could potentially go #1 overall. Some of the teams that we're considering here are the Titans, the Browns, and like the Giants. And I like Cam Ward. I mean, I was one to see him when he was playing at Incarnate Ward and he beat my alma mater at Texas State. It was heartbreaking. I will never recover from it. I was at the Shrine Bowl and I ran into Cam Ward and I told him, I'm never going to forgive you for what you did to my Texas State Bobcats. But talking about him as a prospect, the Giants stand out to me as the best fit for a guy like Cam Ward. I understand they were all in with a guy like Matthew Stafford. They swung and missed. It sounds like they may be pivoting to Aaron Rodgers. Why are they going for these veteran quarterbacks? Well, the head coach and the general manager feel a lot of job pressure, mainly because they've kind of fumbled the quarterback situation. I think they were in a really difficult spot. They come in, Daniel Jones was already seen as the potential guy. They go on a miraculous playoff run, not because of Daniel Jones, and then they have to pay him a big contract. That fizzles out, and now they're left on basically no man's land where they have some really good pieces, Malik Neighbors, Andrew Thomas, then you have Dexter Lawrence on the defense, and now you're kind of sitting here going, okay, do we want to try to win now to save our jobs, or do we get a rookie quarterback and kind of restart this cycle, and if he doesn't perform well, then we are out of a job. And for whatever reason, if Cam Ward's on the board at 3, you take the swing. I think this would be a great pair just based on the weaknesses of Cam Ward from Miami. He is very much turnover prone. Now, he has grown to get better at that since his time at Washington State. He was really bad about fumbles. It decreased. Now, the picks, you got to just sometimes live with some of the bad picks. And a lot of them are like crossbody, like he breaks the cardinal sin of quarterback of rolling out to your left and throwing across the middle. It's a pick. I think if the Cal game had some really bad moments, but then you get the upside of the creative ability outside of structure. And I think that's something that any quarterback at the NFL level, if you want to get to that upper echelon, that's what you need. That's the superpower you need. But you need to be able to reel it in and be able to take the easy things. And I think that's what Brian Daboll is going to try to put Cam Ward in the best position to do. And whether you love him or hate him, Brian Daboll at least has some experience in being able to take a quarterback who is turnover prone and at least reducing it and trying to make their life a little bit easier. Pair that with guys like Wan'Dale Robinson, who are just straight up open all the time and can get some manufactured plays. I think Brian Daboll does a great job of that. Pair that with a guy like Malik Neighbors and Tyrone Tracy. It's a very good situation, I think, for a guy like Cam Ward to excel in. Plus, the offensive line is still being built up, so you're still going to be able to have those creative plays outside of structure and have that mobility. The one concern I have is Daboll is not calling plays, and it's been like a give and take of who's the play caller, and that can have some real concerns of who the quarterback is. And it was really tough to decipher what their scheme could look like in 2025. The numbers were very up and down of what they were, but the quarterback position was just an absolute mess. But let's now talk about Shador Sanders, one of the most polarizing prospects in this entire NFL draft. It's tough to find a perfect fit for a guy like Shador Sanders at the NFL level. Not because the media hates him or his personality or he didn't interview well at the NFL Combine. It's more from the fact that when you watch the tape at Colorado, it sometimes didn't feel like real football. The wide receivers were just way faster than anyone else. Obviously, you had your Heisman wide receiver out wide. There was no rushing attack whatsoever and no offensive line, as he's communicated plenty, and the stats represent that. He holds the ball way too long, but you get this incredible accuracy and poise sometimes that makes you say, wow, this dude could fit in damn near any NFL offense, especially a bad one, because he's going to probably go into a bad situation and he's excelling in that. And looking at his strengths of being able to be on time, sure, he holds onto the ball too long, but there's some creative ability outside of structure, but the accuracy pops off the screen. I think the Browns would be a great fit. I understand they went to go get the guy in Houston, paid him a ton of money. It just has not worked out. I think this will be a major upgrade in their weakest spot. Now, I don't think the Browns situation overall is that great anymore as we thought it was a couple years ago. You obviously potentially could trade a guy like Myles Garrett. I wouldn't take a swing at quarterback right now just based on their timelines, but if they are, I like Stefanski and Shador Sanders as a fit. When thinking of the best version of a Stefanski offense at the quarterback position, I think a lot of their strengths match up with a guy like Shador Sanders. I think that they're not going to have to play at a super quick pace. You're going to have a rushing attack, which I'm very curious on what Shador Sanders could be if he actually has a run game to rely on. Maybe that makes him a little bit more dynamic. Maybe it doesn't feel like he has to play hero ball all the time like he did at Colorado. Because I do feel like Shador Sanders could be a very high-level starting quarterback, and there's a ton of value in that. The question for me has always been, does he have that next year? Does he have that next level? And I think Stefanski, in this situation with Cleveland, though needs a lot of work, can at least put him in a position where he's going to provide a pretty damn high floor. Now, when we talk about a guy like Jackson Dart, I'm low on Jackson Dart. And the frustrating thing, I'll just get it out of the way, my team probably is the best fit for him, as the Seattle Seahawks, I think, are the best fit for a guy like Jackson Dart. Geno Smith looks to be coming back as the starting quarterback, so you're not throwing Jackson Dart into the fire and having him start year one, which I don't think he can start year one. That guy needs to develop if you want to try to maximize the talent. But to be honest, I don't see the most talent in the world. I don't see this incredible arm that people are talking about. I'm definitely a lot lower on him. But let's talk about why this is a good fit. I'm not talking about just him as a prospect. During his time at Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin puts his quarterbacks in the best position to be a playmaker while also being a point guard. A lot of times they want to play within rhythm, within the RPO offense, and getting the ball out on time. I'm thinking of a guy like Clint Kubiak is going to be able to do the same thing for a guy like Jackson Dart. We saw what happened with Derek Carr, where it was a ton of play action, taking shots downfield. That's something that Jackson Dart, I think, could do at a very high level, and you could potentially maximize that talent if Clint Kubiak ends up being the OC for the long term, which, to be honest, I hope he does. Everyone remembers how good the Saints were in those initial weeks. Now, obviously, I believe it was Eric McCoy was the big injury, the big domino to fall down. Derek Carr ends up dealing with some injuries. There was a ton of things that happened with the Saints, but if we take that very small sample size and what they were excelling at, Jackson Dart is something that I think you could plug into a role like that, even if it's just a year's time, and he could excel. I'm mainly doing this exercise to try to talk myself into maybe being okay with this draft pick because it just continues to make sense time and time again. I would love for Seattle to just wait until 2026 because I think that quarterback class is so much better, to a point where I'll be making a video talking about that quarterback class. But Jackson Dart in Seattle with a guy like Clint Kubiak, I'm not worried about McDonald, obviously a defensive-minded coach. He has built a pretty good starting ground of what this retool for Seattle. I mean, they're kind of in the middle of the pack right now, so it's like, are they rebuilding? Are they retooling? Are they going to move off of a guy like DK Metcalf? There's a bunch of different factors to be baked into it, but if I'm looking at the situation of a guy like Jackson Smith-Njigba, who is going to be able to be getting open at a very high rate, I think he's a great fit within Clint Kubiak, especially working over the middle. A lot of the crossing routes, a lot of the things that I guess Chris Olave could do. I know Olave was a lot on the outside. The things that Olave can do at a very high rate, I think JSN can do. And then hopefully you have a healthy K9. I mean, there's a lot of things that could work in the favor of a guy like Jackson Dart, plus the mobility, because the offensive line is, of course, another problem within Seattle. It felt like a decade that it's been a problem. There's a lot of things that could work really well. I just wouldn't take a swing at a quarterback if you're bringing Geno Smith back. Take the big swing next year. And lastly, Will Howard. I'm struggling with this one, man. I'm really low on Will Howard. Obviously, people will point to the 6'4", big quarterback, big arm, got some mobility. I'm gonna say Steelers. With the Steelers not having the quarterback really solidified, Russell Wilson, free agent. Justin Fields, free agent. If they need a guy that's just a point guard, ironically, my comparison and playstyle comp of what Will Howard is a more mobile Mason Rudolph. And I could see a lot of the things working well with him. If it's taking a shot downfield to a guy like George Pickens, sounds good. He was really good in the intermediate area, and especially with any kind of crossing routes. You got guys like Pat Freiermuth. I think of Austin. I think of, if they bring back Najee Harris, that's someone that they could check down to, Jaylen Warren and others. Obviously, there's a bunch of different things that could be baked into it depending on what they do with their free agent class. But a guy like Will Howard in a Steelers uniform, the big body quarterbacks that could go play in Pennsylvania, it just kind of makes sense for me. And a lot of what they were doing last year with Russell Wilson, where it was just taking a shot downfield or a check down, is something that I think you could plug into with a Will Howard at a lower pick. I don't expect him to be starting year one, but he definitely seems like someone where if the starter goes down or starter gets moved away, he could plug in and get you some solid football to be played. I tell you what, I need to go watch some 2026 quarterbacks, because doing prep for this video, I understand a lot of it's high level. It's tough to project some of the things, like as I pull numbers of, do they like to go left or right? Do they like to throw over the middle? It's very tough to project, especially with, what the coordinator changes have been, what the roster looks like. The one I feel so confident in is the Raiders, and Jaylen Milroe makes so much sense to me. But I won't hold you guys on too long. Please let me know, do you like this type of video? Because I love doing these. These are super easy. They're super fun for me to make. And, leave a comment. I love talking to you guys down below. It's my favorite part of making content, is being able to hear your perspective. What do you guys think are the best matches for these top 5 quarterbacks? And maybe should we be talking about guys like Quinn Ewers, Dylan Gabriel, Tyler Shaw? There's been a lot of hype behind the 25-year-old quarterback from Louisville. So with that being said, I'm not going to hold you guys too long. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch today's video, and I will see you guys next time.